Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Wind Your Neck In, and it's a pleasure to have you join us today. I'm your host, Niall Annett, as always, and this week we're very lucky to be joined by a man who has seen and done a lot in his coaching career, despite only having just turned 40. It's a very impressive resume for a 40-year-old, I have to say. So today we welcome Munster head coach Johann van Graan. Johann, how are you keeping?
Oh, no, thanks for having me. I'm doing very well, thanks. Great to be talking to you today, and it's a typical day in Limerick, nice and rainy, but always great to talk rugby.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for us. So obviously we've got some mutual friends. I know you know GJ van Velzen particularly well. GJ speaks very highly of you. I'm not sure if he ever tells you that, but he does. And it's a great opportunity for me as someone involved in high performance and also interested in coaching to speak to someone of your pedigree. So I appreciate you taking the time. I suppose let's start off with just the current moment and where we are in the season. Obviously, it's been very difficult, with what's been going on with COVID and so on and so forth. But how would you assess the start of the season for Munster so far?
No, look, we're in a good place. We won both of our games in Europe against Quins at home, which was always going to be a tough start. And then Clermont away, which was one of those games of rugby that you can write a book about.
Yeah.
Our preparation was so good for them. First time that I went to Clermont, incredible stadium. And when we drove into the stadium, there was actually some of their supporters outside let's call it the perimeter, if I can call it that. And it was great to hear how they actually encouraged us when we got off the bus. And Clermont is a proper rugby club, and their supporters, even we were the away team, were fantastic on the outside, and an incredible game of rugby. We conceded a try after, I think it was 25 or 26 seconds, and
Yeah.
came back with a penalty, and we went down by 4-0. They got their bonus point pretty quickly, but we prepared so well for that game, and we had a lot of belief, and we knew that we just needed to stick to our process. Came in at half time, very calm, very relaxed by everybody. He reinforced what we're going to do, and I said to the team, if you keep believing in what we are doing, and specifically in yourself, we will get through this game and look to come away with the points. There was brilliant for us. Started the Pro 14 very well in that autumn international window. Some come from behind wins, some comfortable wins, one or two games that we needed to grind out. Obviously, on Saturday, we played Leinster. Thought we started the game really well. They scored that try in the 68th minute, and the championship team that they are just didn't give us a way back. Lost the game by 3 points. Very disappointed by the loss, but we will get them later on in the season, and they are currently, in my view, one of the two best teams in Europe. I think they've won now 28 out of the last 29 games in the Pro 14, and it's a quality outfit. We would like to think that we are close, but all credit to them on the day. So it's one more game for us on Saturday against Benetton, and then we've got our first break actually when we can have a proper week's away from rugby for a very long time, and I think everybody's looking forward to it. And then we restart on the 20th of February, and then it's the back end of the Pro 14. There's a possibility of a final if you end first in your group, and then into Europe, and whatever's going to happen in the playoff games of Europe, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the Rainbow Cup with the South African team. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's you've summed up this kind of start of the season there brilliantly. And one of the things you've touched on, being a current player, this after this week when you go to Treviso, Benetton, sorry, I should say, you have the opportunity to rest players who have been working particularly hard, not just in the club, but away from the club to make sure they're in condition. Now, the culture at Munster is fantastic. People I've known who've come through there. The boys will have made sure they've come back in shape, but I want to touch on the mental and physical aspect of what COVID has, how it's challenged players, but not just players, also staff, because it must have been very difficult at times for you to manage all these pieces around Cork and Limerick and wherever else the lads are living. But when you're not in the same building as them, has COVID presented some management? Probably management's the best word. Management challenges in terms of how you keep the group together and make sure they're ready to come back to play the best rugby they can.
Yeah, I'd like to take you back to March. We beat the Scarlets at home, and then we had a few days away, and COVID started coming into Ireland, and we actually had a doubleheader against Benetton coming up at the end of March, and I remember saying to the group, listen, they might cancel all the games. And two of the players came to me and said, aren't you a bit over dramatic? I said, that's what I've been told. Who knows? And, I remember it was a Wednesday, and we suspended training. And I said to the lads, I'll let you guys know by Friday. And we met as a senior management on Friday and said we're going to suspend training for the foreseeable future. Met with the RFU, who've been incredible in this whole process in how they've managed that. And then spoke to the group. And then I think, if I remember correctly, the next date that we were given were the 19th of May. And that was the first opportunity to be innovative because we had to. And there was no book that you could read or speak to somebody that have gone through this before. So, in any high performance environment, you are only as good as the people around you. And, we've got a fantastic staff, and they've been brilliant throughout this whole process. And we've got a hungry squad. And there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to keep in shape. And, even with a 2-kilometer radius around them, they were incredible. We redistributed a lot of equipment, wrote plans, kind of took a 2-week mental break. Not that anybody could go anywhere, but we kind of knew that we weren't going to play for a long time. And I had to first start with myself in terms of getting a new vision for the season, because we were so well set in the season and you were looking forward to the rest of it. And I remember I'm a guy that likes to run, specifically early morning, and think about life, think about what's coming up in the day, get my thoughts in order, and take each day as it comes. And I remember listening to something that Maxwell said, and he said, in any crisis, you go through 3 stages. You go through fear, you go through learning, and then you go through growth. And because the virus for me was such an unknown, I said, I've got to get past fear straight away. And kind of took a day or two to make sure what is my plan for learning, and then challenge the squad to grow. And that's something that the squad have been phenomenal at, from a playing point of view, from a coaching point of view. We challenge ourselves to get better. And once we started off, I think it was somewhere at the back end of June, there weren't one guy out of shape. Everybody had different challenges. Some guys could only run on a tar road. They were different to some guys that were out on a farm. So everybody had different circumstances, but everybody came in very good shape. And then the challenge of not going too quickly, because the only thing we really had was some information out of the US about previous lockdowns and lockouts, whatever they called it, that they've been through. So we were very wary of calves and Achilles injuries, etc. And then we at last started to get some fixtures. And once we got the fixtures, the first one was Leinster in the Aviva, and then Connacht a week later in the Aviva. Once we got that, we kind of started with the rugby, and then fast forward to where we are today. Our main theme in the group for the season is change or be changed, and I really encouraged our players and our staff to embrace change, because currently that's the only definite we have is there will be change. And we said whatever comes our way, we'll be able to adapt and handle change. And again, that's such an important lesson that I learned again. We as humans are so stuck in our ways in terms of doing the same thing over and over until that gets taken away from you. And then you actually realize how adaptable we are and how strong we are, not only physically, but to answer your question, mentally. And, I'd like to think that we as a group have grown incredibly from a mental point of view.
Yeah, it sounds impressive. I mean, I think it sounds like what you did was just take real, an element of control of what was quite an uncontrollable period, and that's quite important, particularly as a player. And I think, what you discuss, you sound like someone who really thinks about and reflects on a lot of things that they've done to their coaching career, and I think that gives us a great opportunity. We'll touch again on some of the culture and stuff at Munster further down the line, but I think what it allows us to do is to reflect maybe back to the early days of when you got into coaching, because your journey into coaching's been one of dedication and hard work, because you started off at the Blue Bulls professionally as an analyst, and you've kind of worked your way through the stages. You've spent the time that you needed to earn your stripes, if that's a phrase that is fair enough. But you have this long dedication to where you are now, and I think that's really great to see, because you do see a lot of video analysts they can be frustrated coaches at times, if you know what I mean by that. They spend a lot of time watching footage and forming opinions, and then sometimes great coaches can be born out of that. So your association with the Bulls is a long-term family one as well. Your dad was obviously massively involved with the Blue Bulls, and that's where your coaching starts. How do you reflect on your time there as a young man and a young coach?
Yeah, look, ever since I can remember, it was Northern Transvaal back in the day.
Yes.
I was a ball boy at Loftus, and I've got some incredible memories of early games. Kicking balls back for Nas Botha. He's the first guy that ever gave me a jersey. Currie Cup finals, the 1988 Currie Cup final, which the Blue Bulls won, I think it was 1918. The 1990 Currie Cup final, where I was on the corner where Tony Watson of the Natal at that stage ran past Theo van Rensburg and scored a try. Yannick Claessens dived on him. The referee gave a penalty, which Joel Stransky kicked, and
Wow.
Natal won the Northern Transvaal 18-12. Then going to South Africa, coming out of isolation, the first test that I was involved at in 94, South Africa versus England, I stood next to Andre Joubert and had the privilege to meet Nelson Mandela,
Wow.
and shook his hand and had a few quiet words. Then, into coaching whilst I was playing. I loved the coaching part of it, and I always loved to be involved, even at school. And then went to the United States for a year. Went to play there with the Dallas Harlequins, which was a phenomenal year for me as a person to grow and to experience something different and to be out of my comfort zone and to really grow up quickly. Came back, was part of the Bulls junior systems, and played for the University of Pretoria. And there I met Heineke Meyer for the first time when he was appointed the Bulls coach. Worked under Dick Muir at the University of Pretoria. Went back to my school, which I'm very proud of, AFIS, the Afrikaanse Hoërseunskool. And the first two guys that actually gave me my opportunity to coach were two coaches that coached me in high school, Karel Kriek and Saki van der Walt. And I actually said at my wedding to them, you two were the first guys that gave me that at the opportunity straight away to coach in 2002 alongside them, the Affie's first team that had players in like Pierre Spies, Derek Keane, Cliff Moulton, guys that played a high level of rugby.
Yeah.
The flyer for that team was AB de Villiers, which is much more known for his cricket.
I have to say, we've actually got AB coming on for episode 5 of the series, so I'll have to mention it.
Brilliant, phenomenal guy. I still say, in terms of skill level, the most skillful guy in any sports that I've seen. I remember him in the number 9 that year was a guy called Heino Keane, and the two of them did just some phenomenal stuff with balls in their hands. And I remember in the final we played against Waterkloof, and AB actually slotted a drop goal, and I think the score was 19-16. That we won in that final.
Wow.
Then in 2003, I was contacted by one of the old rugby brains of South African rugby, a guy called Chris Buitendag, who asked if I would come to the Pumas for a year to come and do analysis, because whilst I was still in the Bulls junior systems, I started working with Heineken, with an incredible coach who I've worked a long time with, John McFarlane, and started helping him analyze games on Sunday mornings. And then went to the Pumas in 2003, helped the SWD Eagles for a bit, helped the Leopards for a bit, behind the scenes, while still, doing a bit of playing for the university side. But in 2001, we played a semi-final against Western Province. They were much better than us on the day. I remember Jean de Villiers played 12 for them and made 2 fantastic line breaks. I remember Skalk Brits, which is a good friend of mine. He's still at that step of his phenomenal player, phenomenal person. And kind of after that semi-final, I decided I want to go into coaching. So hence 2003 at the Pumas. And, so I coached at Affie's, went to the Pumas to help them there from an analysis point of view. But you've got to think back now, you think at where analysis is now. I started off with a pencil and a piece of paper. That's how I started. And then, I went to a guy called Tony Kirkbright. He was at a place called the CSIR in Pretoria. And I asked him if I could use some of their machinery to do analysis, which I remember I actually gave my first salary, which was next to nothing. I actually gave some of my first salary just as a gesture to listen, can I use your equipment? And he gave me that. And then at the back end of 2003, Heineke said, come and see me. And I said, would you be willing to come to the Bulls on a full-time basis? I said, I'd love to come back. So I started on the 1st of November 2003. And then, he was the Vodacom coach back then. Started doing a bit, and he asked me, what do you want to do? And he knew that I wanted to be a coach. And we worked together for a long time. Gave me a bit more responsibilities. Obviously, I was still only 23 years old at that stage. And fast forward to the back end of 2007, after the Bulls won Super Rugby, when Brian Banner scored that phenomenal try in Durban, and Derek Ougaard kicked the goal to let us win 2019. Heineke left the Bulls, and then another phenomenal coach joined the Bulls called Frans Ludeker. And I learned so much from Heineke. A transition year in 2008, so the Bulls went from champions in 2007. We ended 10th in 2008, and Frans asked me if I would do the forwards and the attack going forward. Yeah. I said I'd love to do that. And I then went into a phenomenal 2 years where had a privilege to be part of an incredible rugby team that beat the Chiefs 61-17 in a final at Loftus, and potentially one of my favorite moments, beating the Stormers in Soweto just before the World Cup, which is from a South African point of view was huge, and then the Soccer World Cup followed after that. And then at the start of 2012, Heineke got appointed as the Springbok coach, and he asked me if I would join him at the Springboks as the forwards and the attack coach. And what a privilege to be part of your national team.
Yeah.
I worked with him for 4 years till the 2015 Rugby World Cup, and then Heineke moved on, and Alistair was appointed at South African Rugby, and he asked me to stay on, which I did. And then in the middle of 2017, an opportunity opened up at Munster Rugby, and I applied for the position, and fast forward to today. So now I've been on an incredible journey up to now, and a few people have asked me, so what would you say? I'd say, well, three things: a lot of hard work, a lot of luck, and a lot of grace. And that's kind of how I see what I do. I haven't worked a day in my life. I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing. And the most important thing is, I believe as a coach, you need to know why you're doing things. And once you've got that, it's such a privilege to be part of this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fascinating story, and it's amazing to hear you reflect on it yourself. I mean, there's just no need for me to interject because there's such a clear reflection period, which I know is a crucial part of coaching, and clearly you're self-aware enough to have done that yourself. I think if we just go back to the very early days, there is a couple of questions I'd love to just pump. I mean, clearly playing was playing first prize.
Yeah, definitely. I dreamt of playing for the Springboks against the All Blacks. As a young boy, we didn't have a lot of test matches in South Africa. So the few that we had, I remember I was 6 years old, and the Cavaliers came to tour South Africa, and there was a test match at Loftus where Uli Schmidt scored a try in the left-hand corner, and I thought, yes, I'd like to be that guy. And then in 89, there was I don't know if it was a Rebel tour, but there was a World 15 that came to South Africa, and I remember going to watch that at Ellis Park. And then one of the most amazing moments for me is 92. It was the game that South Africa were, how do I say it, welcomed back into international rugby, and South Africa played, the Springboks played the All Blacks at Ellis Park. And I went to watch it with my grandpa and some of the family members. And South Africa lost the test. Now, if my memory serves me correct, 27-24. I might be a small way off, but I remember 27-24. But the point was, Donnie Gerber scored 2 tries right in front of me. We stood behind the post. And then in 93, the French came to visit. And the second test at Ellis Park, Theo van Rensburg kicked a goal that hit the upright, and South Africa lost the series against the French. So I always dreamt of playing for South Africa. There was then the Bulls, Northern Transvaal in those days, a guy called Pieter Nel taught me to kick a torpedo. I'm left-footed, and so many guys had an influence on me. A guy called Liter Bakkes, who never played for South Africa, but at one stage he stayed in our house. He came from the Free State, and he taught me so much about the game that I always dreamt of playing, and I loved every moment of it. So I never thought I'm going to end up coaching, but once I made that decision, I loved coaching. And I remember a guy that worked at the Bulls said to me one day, you're living your dream now, just in another way. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you always taught me as a young guy that you're going to play for South Africa and going to play for the Bulls. Now you're just coaching the Bulls and you're coaching the Springboks. And that made a lot of sense to me. And I take a lot of pride in that, in the sense of that, And I remember the first test that I was involved with the Springbok coaching staff. We played in Dunedin. Brian Abana scored the World Try of the Year in that
Yeah, I
game
remember it.
in 2012. And we came so close, but what Yanni du Plessis spoke before the game about the privilege to play against the All Blacks. And that's why I'll always be so thankful for the opportunities that I received. That I never had the privilege to play for South Africa, but you've got the privilege of coaching for South Africa. And fast forward to the World Cup semi-final, which we lost by 2 points. Such a disappointment, but such a high point to actually get to a World Cup semi-final. And then we played Argentina in the third and fourth playoff, and I remember getting that bronze medal and say, listen, you don't know if you're ever going to be part of a World Cup again, but just the pride to represent your nation in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So would have loved to play, but grateful for the opportunity that I had to be part of a coaching team.
Of course. And I think you discussed earlier about, it's important to know your why, and to know, you probably, I'd imagine, again, without putting words in your mouth, that you probably pitch that to your players a lot. It's important for players, as a current player, to know what their why is, because it gives you motivation to get up every day and get better, which I know for a fact you're pushing these players to do. But as a coach, as Johann van Graan, what is it about coaching that gets you up every day? Is it the development of people as rugby players, or does it broaden further into just developing people?
I think the number one for me is people. I'm a man of faith, and I believe that you must make a difference in people's lives. And that's a very wide statement, and everybody's different. So for some guys, it's making him a better rugby player. For some guys, it's helping him in his own development. For some guys, it's making him a better father or husband or friend. And at the end of the day, you are in such a privileged position as a coach, because you get so many people across your table, if I could put it that way. And you've only got a limited amount of time with people, because as a coach, you'll never stay at the same club forever.
Yeah.
You'll never coach the same players forever. And an old coach once taught me that people don't need to like you, but they need to respect you. And hopefully you can make a difference in people's life. That one day, if somebody asks, did he make a difference, the answer will be yes. And that's why I coach, is to make a difference. I'm obviously would love to win every competition and every game that you play in, but that's secondary to actually being part of an incredible game, and that's called rugby. And like yourself now, that's about people. The emotions you go through, your highs are a lot higher than the normal human being, and your lows are a lot lower. But that's life, and I firmly believe rugby is a great learning school for life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I honestly couldn't. I think rugby will and always will be about your relationships with people, and I think the best teams tend to have the best relationships. It's a common theme with the people I've spoken to, irrelevant of whether it's rugby or a different. I think sport brings people together, and I think we've obviously discussed the different aspects in your journey through coaching, wide ranging journey that you've been on. I wonder if for a second you can reflect on. So we've just talked about your why, which is making a difference to people. When you coach a national team, your contact time is very limited. So when you compare that to the day in and day outs of seeing, Billy Holland and Peter O'Mahony every day and having interaction with them, was there any times that you felt frustration at not being able to have more influence in those national camps, or did you feel like that was just part of a national job?
Oh, look, it was a shock at first, because I was 9 years at the Bulls, and then at the back end of my time of the Bulls, we had a 3-test series against England. Then went back to the Bulls literally for a game against the Cheetahs, the Lions, and a quarterfinal against the Crusaders, which we lost in Christchurch, and then that was done with the Bulls. And then went on the end of year two in 2012. We came across, we actually beat Ireland in the Aviva, beat Scotland at Murrayfield, and then beat England at Twickenham. And then to your point, then it was like nothing for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you've just gone for 9.5 years, day in and day out. Now it's like 6 months of nothing. But it gave me a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to plan. And then I had to kind of reinvent my way of coaching.
Yeah.
Which was brilliant because, let's call someone like Eben Etzebeth, which is a guy that his first test and my first test were the same. You had to find ways to stay in contact. So whether that was traveling down to Cape Town, picking up the phone once a week, staying in touch via WhatsApp, speaking about the game, but also life. And that was a brilliant thing to do. Unfortunately, at international rugby, your turnover rate of people are very high, whether it's injuries or the coach making a different selection.
Yeah.
Then you've got a proportion of the squad that were there for the 6 or the 7 years. And then you've got some guys that are literally coming in for 3 weeks and then they are gone. So very different. And then coming to Munster, obviously back to the day in and day out. And now it's kind of the other way around. Spoke to of the few national lads that's going away now. And we are only seeing them again on the 20th of March. So it's kind of like finding a way to stay connected to them again.
Yeah, of course.
Whilst maintaining what you have at the club. So different scenarios. And I think that's the beauty of coaching. No role, no club, no individual are the same. And it's about being yourself. And maybe something I read a quote about Pep Guardiola, fascinating guy, if you read about him.
Yeah.
He's got one quote that stuck with me. It says that this beast called football will eat you alive if you're not always yourself. So that's something that stuck with me, and trying to be yourself, because this game is too tough to be somebody else. So stick to what you believe in, be yourself, and be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not sustainable to try and be anything else other than what you are naturally. And I think that's been Pep Guardiola is a perfect example. He's such a individual in how he acts and how he interacts with his squads. I mean, some of the insight you get through those documentaries and the Man City football page is unbelievable. I eat all that stuff up. It's brilliant. I mean, I think we've touched on the day-to-day now with Munster, and I wonder, when you join a province like Munster, there's obviously huge pedigree, huge history that comes with a club like that. An amazing and exciting opportunity. I'm guessing it was something that you just couldn't wait to get your teeth into.
Yeah, look, firstly, went through the process, came to Limerick and see what Limerick is about. Went to Thomond Park. Went through the whole interview process and, got offered the job and discussed it with my wife and with, a few of the people that I value their opinion. Gratefully accepted the job from Gareth Fitzgerald and David Musifora, and then I was still busy with the Springboks and flew over and came to spend a week here at Limerick with my family, and a few things actually in those early visits stuck with me. The first thing was how proud people were to wear their Munster clothing on a day-to-day basis. If you walk anywhere in the Munster province, you'll see people wear different years of clothing.
Yeah.
And together with that, how many homes, restaurants, bars, hotels, name it, have got Munster flags on the outside. And that made a real impression on me. Was the brand, but not on a billboard. The people actually wear the Munster clothing proudly. And the second thing that really I think the word is resonated with me, were the
Yeah.
values of Munster rugby, that real sense of community. And I immediately saw that those values weren't empty words. I saw it with my own eyes. And one coach told me that you must trust your eyes because they never lie. So, once I put those two things together, such a privilege to be part of this club. And it's got an incredible history. Some incredible people have been here. What this club has achieved, and this club is really about people, and people that want to be at this club, and people that are incredibly proud to be at this club. And then, whether you are from Limerick or Cork or Waterford or Skibbereen or County Clare, it doesn't matter where you're from. Once you're part of Munster, and whether we play at Musgrave Park in Cork or whether we play at Thomond Park, it's an incredible experience, and a very humbling experience. And you coach players that are incredibly proud to play for Munster, and that's not something that's evident all over the world. Guys, Keith Hills, Billy Holland, Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray, Stephen Archer, John Ryan, Dave Kilcoyne, to name a few that have only played for Munster because they love to play for Munster and they're proud to be part of Munster. And then, people from the outside, guys like CJ Stander that have given his heart to Munster, Jean Klein, Tyler Blindell made a big impression on me. So, it's all reasons why you are so privileged to be part of Munster rugby.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a, I mean, being an Ulster man born and bred, like there's a huge amount of respect for what Munster have built down there, because um, it's this sense of culture and community that is enviable. There was a period through the 2000s where they were the best in Europe, hands down. And obviously, I was privileged to spend some time with Donnacha O'Callaghan here at Worcester, and you could see on a day-to-day basis what he was used to and how he drove standards at us. So being in that environment, I'm sure is very exciting. And I think the other aspect of it is, when you think of Munster, you do tend to think of a certain style of play. And I know rugby evolves and rugby changes, and whoever can keep ahead of the curve is normally the coaching group that gets the best out of their team. And you're lucky in a sense to have some amazing coaches there, guys like Stephen Larkham, Graham Roundtree, and JP Ferreira, just to name a few. But when you're working with an amazing coaching group like that, and you're dealing with a Munster group that has a traditional style of like round the corner, aggressive carries, do you have to be sensitive to the history and heritage that club has, or is it about developing the team just to win games?
No, I think you've got to know what the club is about. You've got to know what the people is about, and I think creating an environment where it's not my team, it's our team, and you've got to create a clear vision to where your team are going. And I remember back the very first presentation I did at Munster Rugby to the players, the way I explained it was, it's like a train. You're going to have certain stops. Guys will get off the trains. Other guys will get on the train. We are going towards a destination, but we're never going to get there. We've got to enjoy the journey. You'll have some ups, you'll have some downs. We will evolve. We'll have to sometimes be conservative. Sometimes we'll have to take chances. Nobody knows what the future holds. And I guess COVID-19 have proven that. But like I said before, you've got to have the right people. And, Steve, Graham and JP, phenomenal coaches. The four of us have been together now for not even 2 years. We formed a very strong bond, and we really enjoy working with each other. They've been phenomenal coaches with me before at Munster and before my time. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of great coaches to come. But I think that's the thing about Munster. It's not only about the players. It's not only about the coaches. it's about everybody involved, whether it's, the medical staff, the performance staff, the athletic performance staff, our people at Thomond Park and at Musgrave Park, our senior management led by our CEO, and then people from all around the world. It sometimes fascinates me when we play away in a small game like Zebra away, then there'll be this 20 Munster supporters popping out of nowhere, and you don't you kind of don't always see that. And then, obviously this year is different, but I remember one big moment that struck me was I just came to Munster, and then we had a double hit with the Leicester Tigers, and we played against them at Thomond Park and kind of beat them at home. And then you always know about the travelling support, but running out at Walford Road and you hear the noise of Munster, and it's brilliant to be part of. So yeah, look, like I said before, it's an incredible place to be a part of for a time in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in an effort to round it up, because I don't want to take too much of your time, I think the aspect I'm interested to discuss to finish off with, Johann, is this transition that you've made from obviously your early coaching years, but from that assistant coach to head coach. I don't think people outside of the environments value or understand that there's a difference fundamentally with the pressures to some extent, the pressures, perceived pressures, but also the responsibility that a head coach does have. I mean, you just talked about people getting on the train and off the train and a destination and enjoying the journey. But when you move from an assistant coach to the head coach, quite often you can be the one who's deciding who's getting on and off the train, and that can be difficult. And I totally sympathize with people who have to make those decisions, but it's the nature of the business. Are there areas of that you found challenging at the start? And how have you adapted to becoming the main man from being the assistant coach, who maybe at times can sit and not have to take full responsibility for some of the selection or contract decisions?
Yeah, I was very mindful of that at the start. And the first thing I'll say is I've learned from some incredible people along the way. One of the things I said to myself in 2003 is to do CPD each year to make sure that you get better. So I've visited an incredible amount of different environments to try and learn of. So that's the first thing I'd say. The head coaches that I've worked with taught me such a lot, whether it was Karel and Sakia Duffy's, whether it was Heineke or Frans or Alistair or any different coach that I came across. I learned as much as I could. I remember, Garrett saying that it's all on you now. Every decision stops with you. And at first it was like, yeah, this is decisions that you've got to make, but now you back yourself to deliver because of your preparation through a long time, and then you trust in your own ability, and then you trust that you have put in the hard yards, and then you've just got to, the best way I can say, you've just got to swim. You've just got to do it. And I remember coming to Munster, we beat Zebra away, and we beat Ospreys at home, and then won the double header against Leicester. So first 4 games in went very well, and then lost to Leinster at home on St. Stephen's Day. And then kind of the reality, this is on you now. You are the head coach. You take responsibility for this, and it's something that I've enjoyed. I think one of the things you said is perceived pressures. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and coaching, head coaching, any type of job isn't about the moment there and then. It's about doing it every single day. And the best way I can describe it is, in 2011, I went to West Point for the first time, a place where I've been to a few times. They're on the Hudson River, just north of New York, and they've got a saying: you've got to be at your best when your best is required, and your best is required every day.
Yeah,
and that's something that I've taken on. That you've got to deliver every day, and one of the things I said to the team when I joined is every one of us will make mistakes. And I think you've got to be comfortable at making mistakes. There's no perfect team. There's not one team in the world that wins every single game. But at the end of the day, it's not only about winning and losing. It's about the process and the day to day. And it's about creating like you said, an environment where people can thrive in and be themselves. And I've got a very simple philosophy, but I believe once you put all the steps along the way, winning will be a result of it. But you've got to be comfortable in your own skin, and it's something, like I said, that I've enjoyed. And life is too short to not enjoy what you're doing. And I can just reference this back to COVID. Like I said, you've got to live every day to its fullest, because if you told the two of us today, exactly a year ago, that world sport will come to a halt, I think we'd laugh at that. And look at what have happened in the world over the last year. So enjoy every day of your life, because it's later than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you. I think, to have the opportunity to sit over Zoom and have the sort of conversation we just had for the best part of 45 minutes is a huge honor. A massive, massive thank you. On behalf of everyone who'll listen to this, we're wishing you all the absolute best going forward. I know you guys have some big games coming up, but first of all, after Benetton, a well-deserved break. I'm sure you'll be glad to get a week of some family time and some downtime as well. So I hope you have a great time then. Good luck this weekend, and thank you so much for your time, Johann.
No, thanks very much. Have a great day.